We have a next question. Brother Shariful, or Sharif, yeah, Shariful, I guess. Brother Shariful from Pakistan. He emails and he asks whether homeopathy or homeopathy, both the pronunciations are there, whether homeopathy is halal or not. That is the question, okay?
وما أرسلنا من قبلك إلا رجالا نوحي إليهم فاسألوا أهل الذكر إن كنتم لا تعلمون.
Now, this is a question that requires a little bit more detail. I know this is rapid Q&A. I know that, I promised you. But for this one, I need to go just a little bit, even though I'm not going to go into the amount of detail I personally would like to. You see, dear brother in Islam, Brother Shariful, when you ask a Shaykh something, you need to understand what is the role of the Shaykh. What question are you asking? Is it something that an Islamic scholar should be talking about or not? So, there's two angles to look at this from. And I'm going to separate both of these angles and I will comment on both of them. But on one of the angles, I'll be commenting as a regular human being, just like you. We're having a conversation and not coming from an Islamic background, not coming from a Shaykh paradigm. And the second response will be from the Islamic scholarly background. So the first angle is that when you say, is it permissible, is homeopathy, something we should do, right? Should we practice homeopathy or homeopathy? I mean, technically it's homeopathy, but everybody says homeopathy. So again, just FYI. So you're asking now that can we practice homeopathy? And I say, if you're asking whether homeopathy is something that is effective, that answer is not something that an Islamic scholar is necessarily trained to give you. An Islamic scholar does not study the various types of medicines, because there are many different madhabs of medicines. You have Ayurvedic medicine, you have the medicine that is the common Western medicine. You have naturopathy, which is natural. You have herbal medicine. You have the ancient Greek medicine, the Unani medicine, which is in Pakistan is called the Hakim tradition as well. You have all of these different types of madhabs of how to cure diseases. So when you ask a Shaykh about all of these different types of things, it's not the job of a religiously trained person to discuss with you the pros and cons of Ayurvedic, versus nature, versus homeopathy, versus herbal, versus whatever else. I mean, acupuncture, let's say, right? It's not the job of a person trained in Al-Azhar or Medina to comment on the pros and cons of the different madhabs of medicine. And if somebody does, that is his personal opinion. So you ask the question, I will tell you my personal opinion first and foremost, as your brother in Islam, Yasir, as somebody who is educated, who has degrees in engineering and studies and reads and whatnot, that I think personally that homeopathy is not an effective mechanism of curing any type of disease. And this is my personal opinion, and I have the right to my opinion. No study in the world, no double-blind, peer-reviewed study in the entire world has demonstrated that homeopathy has any more than what is called a placebo effect. And in fact, there is the complete absence, and I mean complete absence, of any sound statistical evidence that homeopathy works in any form, shape, or fashion. The founder of this discipline, the founder of this type of madhab 150 years ago, is a German by the name of Samuel Hahnemann. And this particular doctor, he believed that, and this is again ancient mythology basically, he believed that diluting a very small amount of a chemical to an infinitesimally small amount will actually have a profound impact on the body. And so he believed that there's certain things called the theory of miasms, and there's things in the body of different types of fluids. And again, this is all outdated. This is something that the ancient Greeks believed. It's not true. Biologically, it's not true. But there's this notion of different types of fluids and different types of interactions. And he believed that depending on the disease or whatnot, if you were to give an astronomically small tincture of a certain chemical, that it would impact the body in a positive manner. And the reality is that firstly, not only is there no correlation between the tincture and the chemical and the body, but secondly, the astronomically, infinitesimally small quantity is actually ludicrous. So one example to give you an indication, 12C solution. So they have something called concentration, 6C, 12C, 18C. A 12C solution is the equivalent of taking a pinch of salt and dropping it into the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans combined, right? Imagine if you had that quantity of water, non-salty, and you added a pinch of salt. To that level of dilution, you expect something to have an impact on you. So me as an engineer, as a chemistry major, as somebody who understands, compounds and molecules and whatnot, this is ludicrous to think that something of that nature is going to impact the body. It is simply not the case. And as I said, there is not a single actual medical document that proves the efficacy of homeopathy. However, all of this having been said, guess what? This is my personal opinion. You can throw it out the window, no problem. It's my personal opinion as Yasir Qadhi. Now, as the person of Islamic knowledge, you're asking as a Shaykh, I will say, you know what? I have to look at it from an Islamic perspective. And by the way, I am saying it doesn't work, and there are members of my own family that are irritated at my position. And they swear and they give qasam that it works and whatnot. And of course, this is a placebo effect. I mean, whether they took it or not, if they think it works, it's good for them. It doesn't actually work. Placebos also work, as we know. But my point being, so what? That's my opinion. I can say something, you have the right to disagree with it. From an Islamic perspective, from a Shari'i perspective, any medication that is based upon what the person believes is physical science and not metaphysical, what the person believes to be a cause and effect and not something that is supernatural, that would be the default, would be that it is permissible unless something is done within it that is haram. So if you go to any one of these medicine types of, like whether it's acupuncture or whether it is allopathy or whether it is homeopathy or whether it is herbal, and you think that there's a cause and effect, that's your way of looking at it, that when you do this, this happens, then guess what? From an Islamic perspective, the default is that you are, that is permissible unless something haram is done. However, if you're going to somebody that is invoking the spirits, you go to a shaman, in the deserts or the Masai tribe, and you go to some shaman witch doctor over there who is invoking the dead spirits and whatnot. Now, this is an aqidah issue. We say, no, you cannot do that. You cannot go to supernatural causes or powers. That would now be something that is haram, if not even a type of shirk. Now, perhaps you're also asking about homeopathy because there's an amount of alcohol that is used. If that is the reason why you're asking, it wasn't in the question, this is the reason. If that is the reason why you're asking, so realize I have given a much longer lecture about alcohol being present in medicines, and I have said that if the alcohol is not something that is intended in and of itself that for it to be medicinal, but rather it is something that is a solvent, and if it is not enough to make you intoxicated, it's a very small amount, then inshallah ta'ala it is permissible. And this is, for example, cough syrup and whatnot comes under this thing as well. Therefore, these are the two main conditions, that you do not take alcohol for the sake of alcohol. Rather, the alcohol or the ethanol is there, because that's the technical thing, is ethanol is there to preserve the substance that you want to get to. And the quantity that you would consume in a regular time frame is not enough to make you drunk. In this case, it is overlooked and you are forgiven for this amount. And so if that is why you're asking, then that is not an issue in and of itself. And therefore, technically speaking, from a Shari'i perspective, even if I think from a chemical perspective, it is ineffective, that's my opinion. From a Shari'i perspective, homeopathy is halal. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
فانتصر وحملته في فلكك المشحون يا من أحال النار حول خليله روحا وريحانا بقولك كن